All right. Hi, this is Skin Taster. Recently, I did a thread in the backstage area that was on what was more of a important musical skill for our individual goals to be able to have like massive chops, technical playing ability, or to be able to write good songs. And I'm always amazed at this kind of stuff because I always came from the standpoint of writing my own material or working with other people and writing original material from almost the very beginning of me playing guitar after I got just some very basic stuff figured out. I've never been a guy that was interested in really pursuing just complete technical mastery, although that is something that I've really kind of tried to study recently because it helps me write better songs. I've always wanted to just, the true joy for me of playing guitar is like writing my own stuff. Always has been. I don't think that one approach is better than the other. That's what I like. But I thought it would be interesting just for me to like do a little thing here, kind of a meditation on the way I write stuff. And hopefully maybe it can help other people. I'm certainly not a guitar guru or anything, any kind of master of the instrument. But I find writing my own material such a wonderful endeavor for me. It just makes me feel better about life in general. So I thought that if somebody is actually out there who hasn't ever really looked at doing their own stuff, maybe just show a few pointers on what works for me. Might not work for anyone else, but I hope it does. So anyway, without further ado, actually. Recently, a lot of my ideas come the same way they come for a lot of other people. We're all plagiarists to a degree, and I either want to channel the kind of vibe of another person's song or maybe a riff I really like. I use that as like a starting off point a lot of times for something that I want to do, and in some cases, those starting off points have actually over years and years of writing my own little simple songs have really just become part of like the patterns and the rhythms and the other musical traits that I've incorporated into my own sort of library. So maybe figuring out Paranoid 20 years ago, worked its way into to the point now that the Paranoid riff is kind of like in a lot of my material or whatever. But the other day I was trying to work on something. It was like basically just messing around with the main riff from Rock Candy. Let's see if I can remember. No, that's not it. Something like that. Whatever it is. That's it. Anyway, simple little thing. Like a lot of 70s rock seems to just be kind of a pentatonic sort of deal, like the riff. But while I was messing with that, I kind of came up with this thing on my own, just screwing around, where it was like real basic, but. And I like that. I mean, it's just kind of a little rock and roll sounding thing, which is a kind of a sort of a diversion from what I normally do. But anyway, I liked it, and I started thinking, okay, well, usually for riffs like that, I like to have a call and response sort of approach. Like a beginning little thing sets up a tension and then a release. So I was messing around with a progression that I use a lot, which is sort of a. And then I figured I'd kind of jutted that onto the end of that thing, so I have. So now I have kind of a developed pattern, main riff kind of thing, and from there you can kind of see a song could easily develop. I mean, really, for a lot of rock and roll anyway, I imagine it's the same for blues. You're talking about putting 2, 3, 4 riffs together and then working on a song structure. So then I started messing around with that a little further, just jamming on it, and I came up with a little bit extra, so it developed into. and so on. And that's one idea that just came out of like trying to rip off a Ronnie Montrose lick, and it kind of took on its own thing. I think it's enough different from that it has its own, possibility of something I could work with someone else later on, or I could like record and develop myself. The basic rhythm and the riff itself kind of starts to suggest melody lines that could be incorporated into it for soloing or other progressions, and that's basically where I always start with. The other day I did a pedal review of Alligator Bling's awesome five knob fuzz pedal, and I had a riff that basically was the same sort of thing. It just came off of like messing around with some kind of fuzzy like riffs I like. In this case, I kind of was trying to get a sort of an L7 kind of thing going, and kind of by way of St. Vitus and Sabbath and all that stuff. But the riff basically was just, hope if I turned up. And from there, then I got the sort of like goes from a sorry, very sloppy. But then I started working on that, and I was like, okay, well, what can I go from that? Just messing with the same chords, the same notes, but like changing it up enough that I kind of get a verse sort of thing happening out of it. And I was like, so if you string those together, you end up with like a collection that goes kind of like, scratch that. Anyway, goes from there to, and again, I'm not trying to show off any kind of technical wizardry. These are all very basic ideas, but they all springboard from one simple riff that I might have inspired from some other source, or maybe I'm just screwing around with like progressions that I've kind of learned. I always like that sort of E right there that's well used in rock and roll kind of thing. So I use that a lot as a jumping off point, as have other people, and I develop a little riff, and then maybe from that riff I'll rearrange the notes in other ways to be used for other parts, and then maybe develop a bridge or whatever. But eventually, with 3 or 4 like riffs that kind of work together, you've developed song structure. And of course, I have other tools I can use, like for drums and like recording and stuff. I have all that taken care of. But and as far as a lyrical standpoint, that's a whole other story. That I think takes years of like learning how to craft, really, unless you're just some sort of natural poet. And I work on that myself, but I am not the type of person that's going to put that out here right now. Maybe I want to keep hiding behind that a little bit, but generally, when it comes to that, that's a whole different kind of thing for me. So that's it. Warts and all, clams and all, like all mistakes aside, I hope that maybe this will inspire other people who mostly figure out other guys' music to kind of go on and try to, at least as an exercise, learn how to write your own songs, because it's a developable, it's a skill that can be developed. It's just like anything else. It's like ear training or anything else. You just spend a little bit of time and you can come up with your own music, and it's really, really, really satisfying. It's the main reason I play guitar. And I'm also hoping that there's other good songwriters. I'm not one of them. I'm a hack, but there are good songwriters on our forum, and I hope that they'll maybe add their own tips or video or whatever they want to this. And I hope my bad playing hasn't offended anyone. Have a good day.